The opinions and views expressed in this video belong solely to the individuals appearing in it and do not necessarily represent the opinions and views of the organizations or platforms named. Nothing herein is to be construed as legal or financial advice and does not establish a professional relationship between the viewer or listener and the individuals in the video. Viewers and listeners are responsible for any consequences that result from following the advice herein. The following is intended for entertainment purposes only and may contain content that is not suitable for all viewers. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hello, my name is Josiah. Here we have Quinn. Say hi, Quinn.
Hello.
And we're in Jeremy's backyard. Over here in his beautiful backyard over here. And today we're going to have Quinn describe a picture that she drew. And we're going to see how many laps I can complete around the backyard by the time it takes her to describe the picture. Are you ready, Quinn? Okay. Just run over here. All right, give me a countdown from 3.
3,
And start describing the picture.
2, 1, go!
Okay.
This is a Siamese cat. I drew it on Valentine's Day, and I watched a tutorial, and it is a Siamese cat, and I really like cats.
You're doing great.
It took me about 20 minutes probably, and I was gonna give it to my friend, but she wanted me to hang it on my wall, so I brought it here today, and I have lost the rest of my words.
Four.
I didn't put any color to it because it was about
5.
time to clean up. By the time I finished, and I probably took a little bit extra time at my house.
Wrap it up, Quinn.
And then I was thinking about doing color, but I didn't.
Thank you, Quinn. You can go. Okay. People ask me all the time, Josiah, what's the difference? How can I tell the difference between what's halal and haram according to Islamic law? And I tell them, just follow your heart. I'm gonna throw up. Okay. Everybody else worried about this new letter in the alphabet? Elemento? What is that? Jesus. I remember when I was a kid, my first words were... That was my first words. That was too long. If I had 6 hours left to live, I would be close to my family, sip some warm tea, and think about all the time I spent hitting on lesbians without knowing it. That's enough of that.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy DeJournette. This is the Up Late Real Estate Podcast, and it's episode 3, and tonight we are talking about real estate-related scams, fraud, and other types of fraudulent activities or unethical business practices. It's so rampant. In fact, it's becoming more rampant in the market that we're in right now because real estate fraud, things like this happen in more often in volatile markets. So when you see a market that's soaring way up or you see one that's crashing down, that's when the scams and the fraud occur. And we've seen some pretty drastic swings in the real estate market lately. So you're going to see more of this. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about this, well, before I started my career in real estate, I actually worked for 2 different major corporations, national corporations, in their corporate security departments. The first one I ever worked in, I actually started off working just in a super target. I worked in their produce section, then I worked in Starbucks and their retail, and kind of worked my way over to their asset protection, what some people might call loss prevention. So I worked in that department, and I fell in love with catching people stealing. I thought it was one of the most fun. It was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had. Still to this day, I love it. Met some of my best friends at this job. And we did all sorts of investigations. It started out with just like petty theft, but it moved into employee embezzlement and surveillance and sting operations. Undercover type operations. Video surveillance was one of my favorite things to do. It was incredible. I loved it. And it gave me this passion for catching fraudsters and catching scammers. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to give you what you need to catch these scammers and these fraudsters yourself. Because believe it or not, there are so many scam and fraud calls going out every day, and not just calls, but emails, text messages. It seems to be happening more and more, and it's not just locally. And matter of fact, more than half of the fraud that occurs actually occurs outside of the United States. You've got places like Russia, China, Eastern Europe, Northern Africa, some of these sort of hotbeds for scamsters and fraudsters, the Middle East, various parts, India. Tonight, we're going to focus on real estate-related scams and fraud. And we're going to talk about really the top 5 most common types of scams and fraud as it relates to real estate. We're going to talk about a few lesser-known ones, but on those top 5 ones, we actually have several case studies. So these are real-life people in the Tulsa market that have nearly fallen victim to these types of fraud, or they have been scammed in some way. With all of these cases we're talking about tonight, I do not believe any of them suffered any monetary loss, but they were on the verge and actually were able to stop it either through our intervention or their own intervention. And so we want to talk about these tonight because right now we have noticed an uptick in activity, fraudulent activity that's occurring as it relates to real estate. All right, so we're going to talk about a few of those things, namely wire fraud. All right, huge. Some of the biggest losses that occur in real estate are from wire fraud. We're also going to talk about property value scams where callers or emailers or scammers of some sort misrepresent the value of the property. They tell you the property is worth much less or maybe much more than what the property is really worth. Also, home inspection scams. This is where someone has some information about a home inspection that they don't disclose, and you buy the house and it end up, it's cost you thousands of dollars. We're also going to talk about occupancy fraud. This is where someone says they're going to buy your house and they're going to live in it, but really they don't have any intention of living in it. And maybe they don't even live in the same state. That's called occupancy fraud. Then we're going to talk about fake listings. Believe it or not every listing you see on the internet is a real listing. Some of them are scams, some of them are fraudulent. So we're going to tell you how to spot that as well. Okay, so we're going to call Ron and Vicky. We're going to call Ron and Vicky right now. Now, these are pseudonyms. We're not giving away anybody's real name. Some of these folks may be involved in actual legal disputes. They may have some other reason that they need to keep their identity concealed. But we're going to call Ron and Vicky tonight. So here we go. Let's give Ron and Vicky a call right now.
Hello.
Hi, this is Jeremy from the Up Late Real Estate Podcast. Am I speaking to Ron and Vicky?
Yeah, Ron Vicky it is.
Hey, Ron and Vicky. Great to talk to you. Thank you guys for answering the phone. Ron and Vicky, I know what happened, a few weeks ago when you guys were getting ready to close on your new rental house in Broken Arrow. But do you guys want to kind of give a quick overview and tell folks what happened from your perspective?
Yeah. About, a few days before the closing, we got an email from the title office, specifically the agent we've been working with. And it was just a simple like, hey, just want to make sure we got the wire right. Let us know. Give us your information, da-da-da-da. And at first I was kind of like, this is interesting. I don't know if this is right. And then there was like a faux email for the agent as well that we were working with. And we were just like, that doesn't sound like him. The tone didn't seem right. And
you can tell him it was me. That's all right.
It was you. Well, at first I was like, that doesn't even sound like me. Like, honestly, like, he knows that I'm in charge, not my husband. And,
Fair enough. You said it. So, yeah, and I'll go ahead and interject here if you don't mind. Yeah. What these fraudsters did is they actually created a fake DijourNet group website as well as an email address. So our website is DijourNetGroup.com. And the email is jeremy@DijourNetGroup.com. And so these fraudsters actually created DijourNetGroup.tech and jeremy@DijourNetGroup.tech. And then they emailed these guys. So what we figured out is they hacked the title company's email. They got in contact with some of our email communications. Then they realized, okay, we need to pose as their real estate agent. So they make the fake website, they make the fake email address, and then they place the fraudulent communication to the husband, Ron, and they said, hey, Ron, you're going to have to wire the money to this new account. So forget all the old wire information. Now you're going to send it to this account. And you're saying, Vicky, that you noticed that it didn't sound like me in the email, correct?
Right. They obviously didn't know, like, who was handling everything. Like, you knew, like, contact for any type of wiring information. But for whatever reason, the tone was, oh, well, the husband needs to, like, ensure that the information is correct and yada, yada. And I was like, the husband?
Yeah, sometimes this fraud occurs like in other countries, and sometimes you'll notice if you're aware, you'll notice like cultural sort of like putting their own culture into the email or putting their own communication or maybe their own broken English or whatever it is, broken Spanish, whatever they're using. They sort of inject their own values in their communication, and those are red flags, right?
Right.
What were you going to say, Ron?
I was just going to say, so they said, like, I should, like, wire the money. And, like, we all know that I don't do that, So I was just going to say, well, everyone like in like our little circle knows that I don't do that. So like,
Yeah.
like, so it's like,
Right.
I was like, I'm just going to ignore this because it doesn't involve me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let this go. But then like the tone was like, well, you should do it. You should do it. And then I started like looking a little closer and I was like, hey, this says .tech. I don't think this is correct. And then that's kind of when we figured that out.
Yeah, it was wild. I remember when you guys called me, we jumped right on it. We reported it federally. We also reported it to there's a worldwide sort of web organization that you can report it to in the FCC. We got the website taken down very quickly and the email as well. It just sort of froze it, disappeared pretty quickly. But, thankfully you guys didn't initiate a wire. I know you're smart enough to have caught it. 1 in 4 Americans will fall victim to something like this. And you guys caught it. I'm so happy you did. Any advice that you could give to the listeners going forward when it comes to wire fraud?
I think my advice would just be look at every single email address, look at, and like one letter could be off. Just make sure it's absolutely correct. Like we all live in this very fast world of like Gmail, and it says like, it might say like the agent's first name or something like that. It won't give the actual email address. Look at the email address. Look at the tone, look at punctuation, look at grammar. It all matters. One little mistake can cost you tons of money with zeros at the end. So.
And also contact the individual. Like I reached out to the title office and I reached out to you, Jeremy, just to verify, like, okay, I got this email. It seems completely off. This has already been handled. And just double confirming with those people have helped too. And even the title office said, like, always call us no matter what, even if it's wiring or just a question, always contact us.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys didn't fall victim, because in many cases when it comes to wire fraud, your institution obviously and the title company will both get involved to help you recoup as much of your funds as possible. But in about half the cases, 100% of the funds are recouped. But 50% of the time, people lose money when they fall victim to this, and 12% of the time they lose everything. I remember when I worked at was almost a regular occurrence to these huge wire fraud events happening that were $30,000 to $250,000. Seemed almost a weekly basis this stuff was occurring, or at least attempted, right? So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for taking time to help inform our listeners with this, our viewers and listeners with this information. It's only going to become more common, right? So we're going to do our best to talk about it. And thank you guys for being a part of this and helping to educate people. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, guys, you have a good night. See you later, Ron and Vicky.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's get another call in here. We've talked about wire fraud. Let's move on to property value. We're going to give a call to a lady named Daisy. So let's get Daisy on the line. Give me just a second. We're going to get Daisy on the line. Okay, she's not picking up, but let's talk about it. She will in just a minute. She'll probably call me back. Property value scams. Okay, this is when somebody misrepresents the value of the property, saying that it's worth either much less or much more in some cases, so that they can take advantage of the seller. Sometimes this involves panic selling, panic buying. There's all sorts of really complicated schemes and scams, but the general rule is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So again, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So keep that in mind. Let's get Daisy on the phone. Hey, Daisy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, thank you for taking time to be on the show tonight. I really appreciate it. And you live in Tulsa,
Yes.
right, Daisy?
Yes, I do.
Well, I remember you calling me right around the start of COVID, and you mentioned that there was something kind of fishy going on with the sale of your property. You kind of asked our opinion about it, and can you kind of just briefly give us a general idea of what happened at that time, just generally speaking?
Yes, I had someone approach us where I'm located. I'm actually been approached probably 2 times already this month alone. Again, um, uh, to buy my house as is. It's a great location. They wanted it. I had this lady come to the house. The company seemed legit. Looking at the paperwork, made me an offer, and I'm like, okay. At the time, we were in Norman also, so I thought I'll just unload it and we can move on. But once the sign went up, it seemed like everything that they had said they would do or didn't do changed. And then all of a sudden, who was representing the company was not with the company. It was another lady. And then they had people in and out of our house constantly. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was stating earlier that when your gut tells you it's too good to be true, listen. And at one point I was like, I don't know how to get out of this, but I knew something wasn't right, and it was very uncomfortable because it was almost like the moment I signed, things switched, and then I didn't really care that it was my home and I was currently in the home with my children. So that was something that was really kind of uncomfortable and scary too. And then I just thankfully, didn't know what to do, and having these people in and out constantly. About 2 weeks of just very tense, uncomfortable situations. COVID really kicked into gear, and they literally came and begged me to get out of the contract. And would I sign and release them? And I was like, gladly. And I even remember tearing down the sign, like getting rid of it and moving it.
Wow.
Because I was like, yeah. And I don't know, it was almost like you went to buy a car and then the car all of a sudden changed in the middle of purchasing the car, and the car that you thought you were buying, you weren't buying. So it was kind of, I don't know how to describe what happened, but it was not a comfortable situation. And now when I get those calls, like I just stated, I get them quite often. I tell people, no, I've already been sucked into these scams. Please remove my name from your list. Leave me alone.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's becoming more common, as you said. You said already twice this month you've had this happen again.
Yes. I don't know if it's because of where my house is located. I have no idea if it's just public record. I don't know how they find you, but because I'm kind of here. I've got, a kid finishing school. So, not wanting to leave or retire until she's done with school. So, and so it's like, I don't even know how they find you, but they find you. So,
yeah, all this, unfortunately, all the information, everyone can register for the National Do Not Call Registry, but unfortunately, that does not prohibit, it should, but it doesn't keep people from still looking up your information. The Tulsa County Tax Assessor's website literally has everyone's address on there. It has their name, and then they'll go to these database searches. Some of them are subscription-based, some of them are free, and they will just, sort of troll all that information. Sometimes they have programs like robots, web-based bots that will go out and cull a bunch of information. And then they'll put them through these auto dialers, and they'll just keep ringing people until somebody picks up. And really what they're looking for is they're looking for folks that maybe don't really understand fully what's going on, maybe people that aren't cognizant, people that are, vulnerable populations, people that are very elderly, maybe they can't understand English very well, etc. So, but these scams are oftentimes these scams are so sophisticated that anybody can fall victim to them. And
and I fell.
Yeah, and I
I'm
know you,
sorry.
Daisy. You're quite intelligent, very intelligent. So,
Well,
um,
and in my head, they got me at that right moment. We're living in two places. COVID's about to happen. Sure, let me unload it. Cash offer. This is supposed to go to closing within like 2 weeks. Like it really, now that you repeat it, sounds too good to be true, you know?
yeah,
So that should have been the red flag, but with circumstances, they caught me in that moment of, yeah, let's unload, literally to where we packed up our attic and had it in storage. I mean, we were ready to go
yeah.
for
They know when to
whatever
call.
happened.
They know when people
Yeah.
are their most weak and they're most vulnerable. They
Yeah.
watch the headlines. They watch the news. They watch the stock
Yes.
market. They watch the various markets. And when these prices go way through the roof or when they go way down, that's when these scams and types of frauds occur. Well, Daisy, good for you for being able to get out of that deal and being able to come out on the other side without falling victim, because literally 1 in 4 Americans will fall victim to real estate
Well,
scams and
yes,
fraud
it was
in their
just
lifetime.
shutting down the country that helped me, honest to God.
Yeah.
That was what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
that literally was, we want out. And I was like, okay. And I think they were ready. They thought I was going to fight or something, but I was like, no, here, let me sign it. And I literally had an attorney friend like, does this get me out of this?
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't signing anything else at that point that wasn't correct.
Yeah, and that's what we'll tell everyone as well. Consult your attorney. If you're not sure exactly
Yes.
what's going on, if you don't know if you don't know what you're getting into or how to get out of something, consult your attorney. They will. They're paid to make sure that you can do what you need to do. Well, Daisy, thank you so much for your time and taking our call so late at night. I appreciate it, and we'll have you back on the show again for something else. It'll be fun.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I hope no one else falls for it because they are good.
They really are. They really are. Well, I think you've given
Yeah.
people some information that might help them. To be forewarned is to be forearmed, they say. So
Yes.
thank you, Daisy.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Bye. We will be right back after this word from our sponsor. Hey, this is Jeremy with DeJarnette Property Group. We sell residential land and commercial property all across the state of Oklahoma. I want to tell you about a property that just came back to market. This property features nearly an entire mile of frontage along Interstate 40. It's 7480 Hornbeam Road. Nearly 80 acres of land prime for farming and over 130 acres of woods, creeks, ponds, a reservoir, and prime hunting land. If you're interested in learning more about this property, please call or text 918-720-9010. Welcome back to the Up Late Real Estate Podcast. All right, for this next type of fraud, we're going to talk about occupancy fraud. All right, so we have a real client in Tulsa, but we're going to talk to them about the occupancy fraud that was attempted on a property we were selling for them. All right, so let's get them on the phone.
Hey.
Hi, this is Jeremy with the Up Late Real Estate Podcast. Am I speaking to Laura?
Yes.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for taking time to join our show. We're actually at the segment of the show where we're talking about occupancy fraud. This is where a buyer or a borrower misrepresents their intention to occupy a property, either in order to qualify for a loan or claiming that they'll live there when they actually plan to rent it out, right? And not too long ago, we sold a property for you near 41st and Mingo, and you and I kind of ran into this situation. Do you want to give folks just kind of a brief overview of what happened in that instance?
Yeah, so we were selling a house, and the realtor who was trying to purchase the home said it was going to be for owner occupied, that the owner was going to occupy it. And then they had some weird provisions in the offer that made us really think twice about it. And then upon further inspection, I ran into one of the realtors from that company, and they advised that usually they have another individual purchase the homes for somebody who maybe can't pay for the down payment, make the down payment amount, and so they end up kind of reselling it, in effect, like rent to own to the true buyer of the property, with higher interest rates or higher payments. It was clearly not, the realtor did not represent the actual owner of the place. It was going to be a person who would be later selling the home at higher prices, at higher price.
That's correct. And in this case, it was not only the realtor, but also the lender and the investor buyer who were all misrepresenting the situation. And you just so happen to run into all three of these people at a convention, from what I understand, was primarily geared toward the Hispanic and Latino community. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The event was geared towards the Latino community, and the realtors that was representing the buyer was also like Latino. So they geared upon obviously lower income, which a lot of them is Latinos who are trying to purchase their first home.
That's correct. And so then they're reselling, they're buying the property fraudulently, effectively, and then or at least under false pretenses, right? And then they're turning around and selling it to an end buyer for an interest rate. I think it was something like 11 to 15% or something like that.
Yeah, that sounded right.
Yeah, it was like beyond hard money loan rates, effectively like loan sharking these, vulnerable populations. And it was wild that you just so happened to run into them at this trade show. I mean, I was like, holy smokes, this is unreal. So I'm glad we caught it. Is there anything that you want to say specifically to the Hispanic or Latino communities to be aware of, to maybe some things to look out for as it regards to this type of situation, or maybe something else you've run into?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sad that these kind of individuals prey upon people who are so hopeful about getting their first home or reaching their American dream of purchasing a home. But it is, these rent-to-own situations seem to never really work out okay. And so that is, that's just something to, think about twice. Usually you end up paying more payments, or you end up, the clauses are that, when you finally get to a house, it's really hard. So, I mean, rent to own, there's too many horror stories about this. So I suggest don't do it. Try the traditional way. And I know that sometimes requires people to wait a little longer to get their home, but it's more secure.
Yeah, that's correct. And, the house always wins, I guess. That's kind of the... Mm-hmm. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? Those are some of the lessons we're learning tonight. Now, Laura, is there anything else that you want to say to our listeners or viewers, maybe in Espanol, in Spanish, tonight?
Que tengan cuidado con las personas que ofrecen casas y que suena la oferta muy buena. De a lo mejor que va a ser muy fácil comprar una casa, que no necesitan todo el dinero, o que pueden hacer pagos mensuales para el pago. So, tengan cuidado con eso, porque normalmente pues así no se compran casas, y pues si ofrecen eso es posible que van a hacer los pagos más altos o que van a poner condiciones muy difíciles ahí después para poder ser dueños de la casa de verdad. So, there you go.
Gracias. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for your time. Thank you. You have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're going to move on to fake listings. So believe it or not, some of the listings that you see on the internet are not real. They're not even real houses sometimes. Sometimes these are AI-generated images. They could be pulling them from a street view, a Google Street View images, random addresses, fake addresses that aren't even there, maybe some addresses that have been retired, and then they, falsely generate the image of the house. And a lot of times these are listed at prices that are too good to be true. So you're going to hear us saying that all throughout tonight. That's been the general theme. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. But a lot of these listings, You might find a house in Tulsa. Now, you can't find really a house for $800 a month in Tulsa anymore, but 5 years ago you could, right? So what you see a lot of times is you see a house that's listed way under market, maybe for rent or maybe for purchase, and what that does is it generates a lot of interest. We call it a feeding frenzy, right? When you list a house, whether for rent or for sale, well below market, it creates this feeding frenzy. It creates a lot of interest. So what these scammers do is they put these fake listings that are just completely made up. Or another thing is they could be someone's actual house. But just because it's someone's house and someone's living there, the scammers don't care. All they need is the data and the money that comes from these fake listings, right? So let me give you an example. This actually happened to me on a real house that I used to own over in the Hoover-Lortondale neighborhood near 25th and Yale. And in this house, I lived there with my family. We lived there. We had 2 cars in the driveway. We had toys in the backyard. We lived at the house. And one day someone called me and they said, "Well, I didn't know you were renting your house out. Where are you moving to?" And I said, "I'm not renting my house out. I'm not moving anywhere. I'm staying here." And they said, "Well, your house is up for rent on, it's the platform that starts with the last letter of the alphabet. You guys know the one, right? I can't say it, but you guys know the one. Your house was listed on that website, and it's showing it's only like $800 a month. Like, that's way below what you could actually rent it out at." And at the time, I think the market rate was like $1,300 a month at the time. This was like 2019. It was right before COVID, 2020, something like that, early 2020. And I called the number in the listing, and it was just some random guy. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm the owner, and I'm renting the house out for $800 a month, and I have a loan application. If you click the link on that website, if you fill out your loan application or your rental application, I'll get back to you. But thanks for taking." And so I went to the link. I pretended to be a renter. Went to the link. It went to an actual some sort of third-party platform where you put in your payment details and your social security number. And so what this was a fake listing created to culminate like big chunks of data from unknowing, victims that would later become the victims of identity scams and fraud. So sometimes they ask for, big deposits, and you never get your money back, and it was a fake listing anyway, so where'd the money go? Nobody knows, right? So these things happen that are out there. Again, the general rule, it goes back to dot your I's, cross your T's, and if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If you see a listing on any property website that is marked for rent or for sale way below what it is actually valued at and what it's supposed to be priced at, that could be a scam. There is a much higher probability that it actually could be. So something to keep in mind. There's also some lesser common, lesser known scams, but they're still out there. They happen almost every day in some part of the world. Reverse mortgage scams. These became huge. Now, I know there are legitimate reverse mortgage programs, maybe, but there were a lot that were actually scams, right? These were prevalent before, during, and after the 2008 housing market, and we're seeing a resurgence of those coming back. So keep in mind, those are coming back. If you have an elderly parent or a friend or someone that you know that maybe lives alone or lives with another spouse or partner that they're taking care of, and maybe they can't really hear really well, don't know really what they're saying or doing on the phone, check on them. Make sure they're not falling victim to this. That's called elder abuse. It happens every day. Make sure you're doing what you can to educate your parents, your grandparents, our most vulnerable populations about these issues. Another thing is called affinity fraud. This is where scammers exploit their connection to a specific community or a group to gain trust and deceive members into a fraudulent real estate deal. These are going to become These are going to become more common. I was actually invited to something later in the month, next month, and I'm wondering if this may be one of those issues. So I'm going to go in kind of incognito, and we're gonna check it out and see what's going on there. Another thing is title fraud. That's when a scammer forges documents to make it seem like they own a property, allowing them to sell or mortgage it without the real owner's knowledge. You may have heard this story. I believe it was up in Michigan or Minnesota, somewhere up north, maybe Wisconsin. Someone was selling a large plot of land and pretending to be the seller. They sent forged documents. They got something like $500,000 wired to them, and they sold the property without the actual owner's knowledge. The actual owner sees somebody moving onto his land and says, "What are you doing?" And they said, "I bought the land." And he says, "No, you didn't, because I'm the owner." And he says, "I got the document right here." This stuff happens. We got to be careful. We got to be vigilant. Also, bait and switch. You may have heard some of that in Daisy's call, when maybe one agent shows up and then you sign some papers, and then 2 days later, somebody else's sign is in the yard, or somebody else is coming to buy the house, or it's a new deal now, and maybe we've assigned the contract to someone else and the terms are totally different. This is all bait and switch, okay? Equity skimming. This is when a scammer convinces a homeowner to transfer their property title and then collects rent while neglecting to pay the mortgage payments, which leads to foreclosure. So they just start skimming off that equity every month. Then there's foreclosure relief. That's going to happen a lot more. It's happening right now. Because I don't know if you've seen the latest foreclosure numbers, but they're up I think it's like 3.63. It's up from 2.99 or something like that. Foreclosures may be becoming a little more prevalent. It's still down, pre-COVID numbers right now, but scammers are contacting homeowners that are potentially facing foreclosure, promising to save their home with just unrealistic terms or fees. And oftentimes it's just completely fabricated stuff. People are losing a lot of money. They're getting foreclosed on anyway. It's not good. And what we started to see a little bit more of right now is called loan flipping. That's when a predatory lender convinces a homeowner to repeatedly refinance their mortgage, resulting in higher fees, a larger loan amount. You're going to start seeing that more and more as people get into trouble, as people lose their jobs, maybe as the economy starts to bottom out. You're going to see this happening more and more. If you're getting calls every week from a lender, is like, "Man, now's a great time to go ahead and refinance." You're like, "I just refinanced 3 months ago and I'm like 7.89%. Yeah, man, but we can get you this 8-9% loan and we can get you cash back and you can do this whole thing and buy yourself a new boat." And then you've got a higher loan amount. It was $200K. Now you're at $300K. Watch out for this stuff. Make wise decisions. Again, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Always remember, always verify the legitimacy and identity of anyone involved in a real estate transaction. You have to verify identity. If you hire DeJarnette Property Group, we're going to do everything that we can to verify the identity of individuals. It's something that's very important to us, because here's the deal. If the deal doesn't close, you don't get paid. We don't get paid. We got to verify the identity. Do not wire money to someone that you don't know, even if they're pretending to be. You pick up the phone, you call the real person, or you go see them in person and you verify wire details. Again, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Read the fine print. Hire an attorney if you're not sure. Attorneys are paid to look out for that. Also, when it comes to contracts, use standard state contracts. In Oklahoma, we have the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission. Nearly every broker in the state has already just switched all the way over to Oklahoma Real Estate Commission, or OREC standard contracts. There's no reason to use a contract outside of that. Oftentimes builders, if you're building a new home or something like that, they have their own contracts. Watch out for that stuff. A lot of more fine print in there. It's oftentimes geared to protect the builder and not the buyer. All right. Also, misspellings, poor grammar. Also, beware of upfront fees or commissions, all right? The only time we ever charge an upfront fee or a commission is a retaining fee when we're working with a commercial client where a deal might not close for a year or two. We might charge a retainer, a certain percentage or a retainer, but what happens is that comes off the final commission due, and it's really just paying us for our time from the time we start working with that commercial client until the time the deal closes, which could be a year or two down the road. You know, if it's a residential deal, 98% of the time, there's no retainers on that stuff. Unless we're showing luxury homes and we're doing 30, 40 showings in a weekend or something like that, we might charge a retainer in that case. But just upfront fees, you know, upfront commissions, that kind of stuff, be wary of that stuff, all right? Look up emails. When you get an email, read exactly where the email came from. If you can locate the IP address, you know, it's like a multiple digit number with a lot of periods in between. It usually says IP and then it shows that number. You can take that number and paste it into just Google IP lookup, and you can see exactly where that email was sent from. If it's from like Malaysia, Sri Lanka, you know, India or something like that, like, and you're doing a deal here in the States, it's probably not a real person. It could be a scam or a fraud. So there's another way to look at that. Consult with a qualified real estate agent. Just this week, someone sent me a screenshot. This is a real thing that happened about 4 days ago. Someone sent me a screenshot of a cash offer they got. The website that was listed in this cash offer was completely expired, and the number they were texting from was registered to someone in Mississippi or somewhere that was at like 85 years old. And it wasn't the number of the company, this like large corporation supposedly that they had. It was just an old lady in Mississippi. They had hacked this lady's like, you know, WhatsApp or something, and they're texting, pretending to be a big corporation sending this cash offer. And I'm sure there was going to be all these weird terms and stuff with it. So consult with a qualified real estate agent. Thank you so much. We've really tried to squeeze a lot in here. If you do have any questions, you can send them to us at weareuplate@gmail.com. weareuplate@gmail.com. That's all for tonight. Have a good night.
But in recent months, it's been thousands of AI-powered deepfake videos that have surfaced, leading to billions of dollars in fraud.
Yeah, because it can be hard to tell the difference. Tonight, I-Team reporter Brian New brings you a warning and an in-depth inside look at the technology that is now fueling a new wave of scams.
Hello, my name is Elon Musk. Today I would like to introduce you to quantum AI.
I saw it on Facebook, and then I saw it on TikTok.
Do you want to earn from $5,000 a month?
And then I thought, well, you know, this might be a real thing.
Heidi Swan, a 62-year-old healthcare worker, thought she was making a smart investment because who better, she thought, to take financial advice from than one of the richest people in the world.
So did it look like Elon Musk?
Looked just like Elon Musk, sounded just like Elon Musk, and I thought it was him.
And so Swan contacted the company behind the pitch and opened an account for more than $10,000.
You thought you were investing in cryptocurrency.
Right.
But Swan had been scammed. Her money vanished, taken by a new wave of high-tech thieves who are using artificial intelligence to turn real videos into fakes and make fake videos look real.
Don't miss this incredible opportunity to change your life and help others in the process.